Welcome to the Minnesota Rovers Tuesday evening presentation. Minnesota Rovers is an outdoors club based in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Our members organize trips that range from 1 hour to 2 weeks in Minnesota or further afield. Examples of our activities include hiking, biking, backpacking, skiing, snowshoeing, paddling, and rock climbing. We also organize conservation and trail clearing trips. Our members have experience and skills in many outdoor activities, so if you want to learn a new outdoor activity, we can probably help you. For more information, go to mnrovers.org. Now let's move on to this week's presentation.
So tonight, you're here to hear from Deb Parker and Cynthia House on beginner backpacking and beyond. The Minnesota Rovers beginner backpacking program started in 2021. Its purpose is to nurture the Rovers backpacking community through education and structured experiences. Deb Parker completed beginner backpacking in 2022 and Cynthia House in 2023. They started co-coordinating the program in 2024. So please join me now in welcoming tonight's speakers, Deb Parker and Cynthia House.
Hi, everyone. This is Deb. Cynthia, you want to say hi before I do the screen?
Hello, everyone.
And we're very excited to be here tonight to talk about beginner backpacking. Okay, so we're here today just to talk a little bit about the beginner backpacking program, how it works, and hopefully some of you out there may be interested in participating and others volunteering because Cynthia is looking for volunteers. So let's talk a little bit about beginner backpacking. As Stacy introduced us, I'm Deb, and Cynthia and I are co-coordinators, and we kind of divide up responsibility for making the program work. I handle admin and participant kind of things, so all the reservations, the signups for trips, and I coordinate all of the Zoom education classes. And Cynthia handles all of the volunteer coordination. So she recruits the volunteers, figures out the schedule about when the trail experiences are going to happen, provides information about who's participating in each trip to the trip leaders. So that's a lot of work, and it's already starting now, and it really ramps up in the summer after the Zoom classes are over. So we'll talk more about some specifics. Just a little bit tonight about how did this whole thing start? How does it work? Where can you get your backpacking stuff if you're brand new? And volunteer opportunities. And if you're interested in participating in Beginner Backpacking 2025, how do you sign up? And it's really easy. So let's get started. As Stacy said, Josh Brand, a Rover, started beginner backpacking in 2021 because he was looking for more people to go backpacking with. There are tons of people in Rovers camping, skiing, boundary waters, canoe camping, all that kind of stuff. And he was looking for some more people to backpack with. So he and a couple of other people designed this kind of reproducible program to get more people involved. And Cynthia and I are, I think, like set number 3 of people volunteering to coordinate the program. It's designed for absolute beginners, and that was me, absolute beginner. And for those with limited experience who are looking to buff up their skills, find a community, and just get out on the trail a little bit more. To date, I counted up that we've had 220 people, Rovers, touch the program. Some probably took 1 or 2 Zoom classes and said, yeah, I don't think so. I'm going to stick to car camping. Thank you very much. And others have made it all the way through the 2-night practice trips. The whole shebang is run by volunteers, and Cynthia can probably say a little bit more later about how many, but I think it's about 20 people that make this whole thing work. And some of the volunteers play multiple roles. So it's a complicated thing in some ways, and it really only works because of the amazing volunteers. One thing that we want to emphasize, because sometimes there's a misconception about this, is you do not have to graduate, from beginner backpacking to go on Rover backpacking trips. Anybody at any time who's interested in a posted backpacking trip can contact the trip coordinator and find out if their skills and interests are a match for that trip and go. Beginner backpacking is a standalone program, and it's voluntary. It's for people who really want a structured approach to learn more about backpacking and get some practice in with other beginners and some experienced backpackers. So I'm just going to say it again. You don't have to graduate from beginner backpacking to go on a Rover backpacking trip that's posted outside the program. And that includes people who join beginner backpacking. If you have a little bit of experience and you're going to do beginner backpacking, if someone else posts a trip that you think you have the skills for, you're absolutely welcome to do that. So what are the prerequisites to participate in beginner backpacking? You need to be a Rovers member, and we have the link for membership at the end of the presentation. You should have some previous car camping experience, the ability to hike 5 miles carrying a day pack. You don't have to have a lot of experience carrying a full backpacking pack. We're going to talk about that and you'll have a chance to practice. But you do need the willingness to put in some extra time getting ready to do the field experience, the day hikes, the overnights, that kind of thing. It's not what we do. You basically need to be fit enough to get out there for a day hike by the time we start the day hike. So a little bit of willingness to put in extra time. And we're really going to encourage participants this year to post some practice trips with each other too, to get some more hiking with the pack experience in. So how's this thing structured? There are 4 major components, and they are sequential with some overlap. So the first part are the education classes, and I'll talk about these in more detail. It's classroom education, it's by Zoom. After that, you progress to a day hike in a local park, then to a one night, just an overnight, typically at a state park near the metro area. And that's followed by a 2-night trip. And I'll talk a little bit more about those progressions as we go along. So to go on a day hike, you need to take, there's just one class. As soon as you've taken the class on choosing and fitting a backpack, you are eligible to go on one of the day hikes in late spring, early summer. To go on a one-night trip, you need to complete all 6 of the Zoom classes and a day hike. And to go on a 2-night trip, you need to complete all the stuff that came before. And again, these requirements only apply to our beginner backpacking program participants. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about the education classes. There are 6 of them listed on the right side of the screen, and we have a different volunteer who teaches each one. We offer each class 2 times on a different night of the week. So if you have a standing thing on Wednesdays, and you can, catch the class on a different night of the week. They're over Zoom and at 7 o'clock. They are live and interactive. These are not on-demand classes. You need to show up. There's a lot of conversation, opportunity for question and answer, that kind of thing. And they typically last about an hour to an hour and a half. So what do we cover? The intro class is it's probably the quickest one. We talk about the unique aspects of backpacking. What do you need to expect that's really different than car camping, for example? And we go over some of the basics like water filtering. How do you do that? A little bit about trip planning and a kind of a typical beginner-ish trip that you might go on. We talk about leave no trace and hygiene. We're going to talk a little bit about pack weight. What do you need? Gear discussions happen through the whole series of classes. Then there's choosing and fitting a pack. This class is really pretty specific about what do you look for in a backpack? How do you choose one that fits your frame, your height? How do you load it? How do you pick it up when it's heavy and heave it up onto your back? And Chris teaches this one, and he also talks a little bit about trekking poles and boots, kind of as a whole package. Shelter and sleep systems. This is Josh's class. He talks a lot about different approaches to shelter, whether you have a freestanding tent or you might have a, one that you use your hiking poles to hold part of the tent up. So lots of considerations about what you might want to think about in choosing your shelter. The same with sleep systems, quilts versus sleeping bags. Is it worth it to you to carry a pillow? What kind of sleeping mats options are out there? Backcountry skills is other Chris, and he has a lot of experience in the backcountry and talks a lot about trip planning for kind of safety and enjoyment. To make sure that you have some basic skills, you've got a navigation system. So a lot of, I would say, like safety and making sure that you're going on a trip that your skills are suited for. And the final two are clothing and cooking, which is always a fun one. Clothing, Keith talks a lot about what do you really need? How do you keep it minimal? How do you not spend a ton of money on this? Breaks down just what do you need to think about in terms of conditions, time of the year. And he also talks quite extensively about footwear. We have a lot of conversations about socks, for example, and boots versus trail runners. So it's a really fun class and just tons and tons of useful information there too. And finally, Annie does the cooking and stoves class and talks about different kinds of stoves that you can use for backpacking, meal planning, what's your style of eating on the trail and how do you plan meals around, are you a gourmet or are you as a straight food is fuel, I need no frills kind of backpacker. And then she concludes just going through some sample menus for a weekend trip. Like, what would you bring if you were, the basics type, or if you were a gourmet, what might you put in your pack? So those are the classes. And I am going to hand it over now to Cynthia, and she is going to talk about the trail experience portions of the program.
Thanks, Deb. You can see from the photos, the rainy day photo, we go in all weather. And in fact, that was my beginner trip that you see in the top picture. And we learned how to set up all of our gear in the rain. It rained from start to finish. So yay, new tent that didn't leak. Okay, you can advance the slide, please.
Okay, that's weird. I just pushed page down and now it's like stuck. Hang on. Okay, there we go.
Okay. The day hike, as Deb mentioned, is the first trail experience after you complete at a minimum the choosing and fitting a pack. You'll get the opportunity to have whatever pack you arrive with fitted to your body. The leaders will assist you in getting the straps adjusted, show you everything they brought. They typically start by emptying out all of their gear and talk through why they chose what they chose. At this point in the game, a lot of people haven't invested in gear yet. They might not have committed fully to backpacking, or they're still deciding on different options. So this is consistently the most highly rated section, is seeing all the gear and hearing from experienced people what their preferences are. along with the Zooms. As Deb mentioned, you will get opportunities throughout all of the program to talk gear with people. And that's a very valuable part of the program, doing it together with a group like this. The day hike is about 3 or 4 hours. It's usually a weekend morning. Along with the gear discussion, there is a practice hike with at least 20 pounds in your pack. You don't have to have all of your gear. You can fill it with water, canned goods, whatever you need to make a 20-pound weight. And use your poles if you got them, and get out there and just see how fit you are. Hopefully, as Deb said, you're already practicing your hiking for the season. Your boots are broken in. You carry a day pack with some water, and you're kind of getting into it. We have had a few folks arrive for their day hike, and it's a little much, but you have opportunities to catch up. For the day hike, you can borrow one of our Rovers backpacks. We have I'm not sure what the quantity is, but there's a number of them in the Rovers gear locker available for posted trips like this. And we did add some additional women's packs this season for smaller folks. The other equipment will stay in the locker. We'll talk about the other equipment for the overnights, but for the day hike, you can borrow a pack. Other people have borrowed packs from friends if you're not ready to commit to your gear just yet. But a lot of people at this stage are out there talking to all of the outfitters, trying to find a pack that fits them well. Okay, advance, please. The one night you get to go on as soon as you've completed all 6 Zoom trainings and successfully completed your day hike. The one nights typically take place in a state park. They're usually within an hour or so from the metro area. And again, at this point, you're going to go through a full gear shakedown because we ask you to have everything that you would need for a weekend solo trip. So nobody's sharing stoves, nobody's sharing food, there's no group meals. You are to prepare for independent backpacking. You'll see another gear shakedown. Your leaders will go through your gear. Some folks carry a lot of things and are able to leave some of them back at the car, and others might need to borrow from some people. You can, for the one-nighter, borrow Rovers gear. We have almost everything you might need if you still aren't ready to commit. We have backpacks, we have bear bags, stoves, tents, sleeping pads. We do not have water filtration for loan or cooking pots and things like that, but we can go into that more in detail. There is a trip fee for the overnights. This offsets our campsite reservation fee, and it also shows your commitment to the program. We need some commitment when you sign up for these trips because there's a lot of coordination involved. I think that was what I wanted to say about that. Advance, please. The 2 nights can be kind of a big step up for some folks if you've just been practicing around the local parks here. The Superior Hiking Trail is a typical place that the leaders choose. We've had trips in the Porcupine Mountains. I'm not even sure how to say that, Suomi Hills. Some places a little further afield, but the Superior Hiking Trail, for those who haven't been on it, has a lot more up and downs, exposed rocks, roots, water. You need to be ready for it, so we will be hitting the ask that you keep practicing with your pack weight until you can hike a goodly distance for a full weekend. These 2-nighters are usually Friday through Sunday, 9 to 12 miles. A typical trip might be hiking from the car park in 3 or 4 miles to the campsite. Everybody sets up. You hike out the next morning to your next campsite, 6-ish miles, set up again, and then take down and hike back out to the car. So that's the kind of mileage that we ask you to be ready for. Again, the gear is available from the Rovers locker. It's all on a first come, first served basis, and our gear guys appreciate advance notice. You'll need to make an appointment. The gear locker is it 280 in Como, I think, Stacy? Yeah. But there's an email on the Rovers website, and we can provide that when the time comes. Okay, next. So again, the equipment, Rovers has invested in a lot of stuff to support our backpackers. We have bare cans as well as Ursac. Lots of folks have borrowed these items. You usually can pick them up a few days ahead, and we ask that you return them cleaned within a few days at the conclusion of your trip. The gear borrowing, again, is just for Rovers members, and it is for posted Rovers trips only. So if you're going on a side trip, this will not be available to you for that. Okay, next. Deb already mentioned that the program is fully run by volunteers. Every person who is running this show tonight, as well as everyone who volunteers on the trail and teaches the Zoom classes, is a volunteer. So we are looking for experienced volunteers who might like to help out this year on the trail experiences in particular. So if those of you who are in the area, well, you can come from Ontario also if you'd like, but you can contact me at beginnerbackpackingmnrovers.org, and we can talk about how you might be able to help us on the trail this year. Deb and I are also looking for the next pair or more folks of people to take over the program administration. So if you've got skills with spreadsheets and people skills and can manage a lot of detail, we would love to talk to you this year and have you apprentice with us for potentially taking over the program next season.
Great. So, what are you interested in any way, shape, or form as a participant or as a volunteer? If you'd like to participate, you need to be a Rovers member, and that sign up is super easy on the website. And then to register to be in beginner backpacking, all you have to do is send your name, email address, and cell phone number to me at beginnerbackpacking@mnrovers.org, and I'll get you on the roster. And the way information goes out is we post things on the trips page for beginner backpacking program participants. And I also send that information out in a consolidated form to everybody in the program. So for example, last night I posted all 12 of those Zoom class sessions. And later this week, I'll send an email to everybody who's registered for the beginner program, beginner backpacking, with all of those in a nice grid. So you can pick your dates and decide, which session you want to go to. So the same thing when we have all the day hikes ready, each of those will be posted individually for beginner backpackers on the trips page. And I'll also send that out to the program participants by email. So we try to make it as easy as we can to keep track of what's coming up. And then for signups for day hikes and that kind of thing, those all come to that same beginner backpacking email address, and I get people on rosters for hikes and that kind of thing. So we inherited a really good system and have been keeping it up. So I encourage you, if you're interested in learning more, start the program. And, you may find that the Zoom classes are exactly what you needed, and that's fine. If you hit maybe after the day hike, you're like, yeah, I don't think the overnight is for me. I want a car camp. That's fine too. This really is an exploratory program for a lot of people to find out if backpacking is for them at all. And like Cynthia said, if you'd like to volunteer, if you're an experienced backpacker and you would love to lead some newbies on a day hike, send us an email and Cynthia will be in touch. Same with any questions. And Cynthia, any last
Mhm.
info? Did I cover it all?
Nope. I would just reinforce that you can take what you like and leave the rest. Those of you who aren't in the metro area and are unlikely to do any of our trail experiences are welcome to become a Rovers member and register for the program just to partake of the Zoom classes if that's of interest to you. We carry over those who do want to go through the full module, but maybe run into some scheduling issues this year, or we've had folks who unfortunately hurt a knee or an ankle and weren't able to get out on the trail. Your classes can carry over to the next season to finish through.
We have a lot of people who do the program over 2 years and some 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Cynthia, can you give some examples of the volunteer duties or positions that you have available?
Sure. The 3 trail experiences are usually hosted by 2 coordinators, someone who takes the lead and someone who assists. The lead typically has backpacking experience and is able to help folks fitting their packs and knows the gear really well and can answer a lot of questions. We typically send them out in groups of 6 to 8, so it's great to have a partner who can also work with individuals to get through the pack shakedowns, we call them, and then just to walk with folks on the trail and answer questions and collect everybody at the back in case we have some stragglers. Same thing on the overnights. We like to have 2 folks always. Even if we have a smaller group of 4 folks, 4 new people, we still would send 2 experienced people with them. And to have that variation for new people, you get a different flavor from everyone you ever have backpacked with, as you know, Rob. So we like to give the variety for folks. You don't have to have backpacked forever. Deb and I are both newbies, and we've both led some experiences and substituted at the last minute as a co-lead. And if we can do it, you can do it.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple of questions in the chat. One is typically, what is the common size of a backpack to use? 45 liter, 50 liter, 60 liter size of backpack?
It really depends on your style. I think mine's a 45 plus 10, so I can expand upward if I need to add more into it. That's one of the things that we talk about in the how to choose a backpack is how long do you plan to be on the trail? How much food are you going to have to carry? What are your conditions? So the size is going to vary depending on the type of backpacking that you want to do. Ultralight folks don't need as much because they pack in a much more minimalistic way than some of us who appreciate the creature comforts. I'm going no backpacking without my sleeping mat, the good one. So that's going to go into my pack. That really varies. And it depends also on the size of your frame. Like some women are just too petite to be carrying a gigantic pack and will go with something that's slightly smaller. But I would say like 45 to 55, Cynthia, is pretty typical.
Yes, unless you're going further, longer, need to stick a bear can in there, or you're in colder conditions where you need a heavier bag, extra clothing.
Yeah, if you're going to Alaska or you're carrying a ton of water, you might need a bigger one.
That is definitely covered in the choosing and fitting a pack Zoom training.
Yep.
So there's a question here about the type of equipment that you take. So should a person carry his or her own pots and pans and so on? Or is it okay to share with others? What's the usual way of doing things?
It can vary depending on your trip. For us in the beginner program, we want everybody to hike as if they were solo so they can learn how to use their own equipment. So on other trips, though, you would certainly share equipment. I've been on trips where we, there were 4 of us and we brought 2 stoves to share among the 4. But for beginner backpacking, we ask everybody to carry their own gear. Lots of folks use what's called a jet boil, or they have one little pot and a little stove, and then that's it. There's no other pots and pans and a spork kind of thing. I eat my food out of a zippy bag. When I pour my boiling water and I rehydrate, I eat it right out of the bag. So I don't even clean dishes. Like, can you tell I'm a lazy backpacker? It's so true. I just boil water. But
Well,
again, Cynthia.
I should say Deb and I are both aficionados of ultralight, and I'm very short. So we don't carry extra pots and pans for cooking. We boil water and eat from the bag. I do bring a coffee mug. That's an essential.
Oh, that's essential. But mine's one of those little collapsible babies.
Yeah.
Pop it up. Yeah. But it really, that's one of the things we talk about a ton in the program. And one of the best things is you're seeing what everybody else has. And, I got some of my best stuff watching the instructors and fellow backpackers. And, I now carry like this little teeny tiny pump to blow up my air mattress too. It's worth the extra couple ounces.
Yes.
So Robert had a question about the process for signing up for the classes. And could you go over that again? He said, is there a sign-up sheet for specific sessions by email? Could you kind of go over how that happens again?
It's way easier than that now. Because it was, at one point, we had 101 people participating, and there was no way for us to do signups for individual sessions. So this is how it works. Once you sign up for beginner backpacking and you are on the roster for 2025, everybody on the roster gets a link for each class. You don't have to RSVP, you just show up. So I'll send out the schedule and you can plan on your personal calendar which ones you want to go to. And then it's usually 2 days before each class. I'll send a reminder email. Don't forget, this Thursday, we're doing cooking in stoves, 7 o'clock. Here's the link. And then you just show up. So the only registration for Zoom is joining the program. I hope that answers the question. Robert, does that work?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Mark was wondering if you offer a first aid class, trail first aid class.
We do not. So we talk about safety and a little bit about first aid, especially in the backcountry skills class. But if you want to know more about wilderness first aid, that is definitely something to sign up for through another avenue.
And Rovers, one of our members typically shares a link with a group that she's part of that offers wilderness first aid training at least twice a year. I think she's done it. Some of our trail leaders are certified, but certainly not everyone is. So we do ask that everyone bring first aid gear for themselves.
Jonna was wondering if you could remind us about the email address to sign up.
Sure. You know what? Let me just pop my screen back up there really quick. Or, I'll put it in the chat. It's beginnerbackpacking@mnrovers.org. So I'm going to type that in there right now, hopefully without any typos.
Can't we just do it from the link on the trip description?
Yep, it's everywhere. It's in all of the Zoom class descriptions. But I'll put it here. Beginner backpacking@mnrovers.org. Okay, I got it. Yeah, no typos. All right.
Are there any other questions for Deb or Cynthia? We also have some folks who have gone through the program according to the chat. So are there any burning questions on your minds? How was it?
How did Deb and Cynthia get to be so awesome? It's just natural.
Just natural. Yeah, you should have seen us. We hiked together last year at Porcupine Mountain Wilderness State Park in the UP. We had a blast. It was super fun. We felt like we truly graduated. So,
Really beautiful area too.
oh, it was
Yeah.
gorgeous. Thumbs up. I love going places where you can't hear traffic noise.
And we got to put that cat hole digging training to use.
Yeah, that's right. No latrines at Porcupine Mountain State Park. Any other questions? Well, thank you.
When are the classes going to start?
They start April 2nd. April 2nd with April 2nd and 3rd are the first two. So I will send out an email to the listserv tomorrow, letting everybody know that all 12 sessions are up. And then at the end of the week, I'll send out the schedule also to those who are so far enrolled. But you can keep enrolling. There's no deadline. At some point, we cut it off in May because there's no way to finish the Zoom classes. But each of the classes is offered once, pretty close to once. The first one's in April, the second one's in May. So if you miss it in April, you can pick it up in May. All right. Thank you.
Thanks to you both.
Thanks for watching this Minnesota Rovers presentation. If you want to see more, please click on the link to our channel or the subscribe button below. Thank you.